All right, guys, so I got a wild clip here for y'all of Stephen Miller's wife on Piers Morgan going absolutely ballistic snowflake Karen mode on Cenk and Omar Baddar during this Israel segment, where she not only accuses them of being anti-Semitic for criticizing Israel, but also straight up calls for Cenk to be denaturalized and deported. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into this, and then I'll show you that second clip on the denaturalization part of this.
Why is it that every time someone wants to criticize Mamdani, it immediately comes back to the Jews and the anti-Israel movement instead of actually talking about his viewpoints, which is that he
Nobody
wants to
said
make
Jews. You just said it. You always do that. We say Israel, you say Jews. We say Israel is a government. Please don't make it about Jewish Americans. And you come back and go, you have to make it about Jewish Americans. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?
Is Israel a Jewish state? Yes or no?
Yeah. First of all, okay, so Saudi Arabia is a Muslim state, and you can criticize it all day long, all day long. There's no special protection
because
for
what you're doing is you're decoding language
that calls themselves
American
a Jewish state or a
and
Muslim
to say that
state.
we should not be here and we should not be in existence, and that you would be happy for other people like Mamdani to use
it. I want Israel to be safe.
Nothing of the sort.
Nonsense. You're totally lying. It's very normal for a Miller to be completely and utterly lying.
Quite frankly, I'm really sick and tired of this racist, bigoted rhetoric that comes from people like you against my husband, against my family, and my children. I am raising Jewish children in this country.
Who brought your
in which
children into this? What a weirdo.
Piers, I'm going to be done with this if you're going to allow racist and bigoted attacks against one of your commentators just for the sake that he will not
hang on.
speaking.
Casey, to be clear, he inserted
a line that says the Miller's lie. Is that not coded language for therefore we are Jewish? Come on, Piers. Where are you?
What?
Where are you standing?
God, you're so
Casey,
pathetic.
if I can speak.
Everything's your shield.
If I can speak, listen.
Fire him, cancel him, cancel him, America.
Cenk,
oh my God, Israel's feelings have been hurt. Why don't you work for this country?
All right, can we try and get
this country?
Yeah, you are a guest on my show, and I appreciate you coming on the show, and I like you coming on the show.
And I'm saying the two other guests on your show are welcome to participate in these anti-Semitic attacks that is so permeating on CNN and MSNBC.
This is so ridiculous. I'm sorry. I have to jump in here. Somebody criticizing you personally is not an anti-Semitic attack. If somebody says that you are lying, that is not an attack on Jews. That is an attack on you. And just stop hiding behind identity. This is all the snowflake behavior that the right is supposedly criticizing the left for, that you're simply repeating here. Yes, Stephen Miller is a destructive force in American society. That is not an attack on Jews. That is no reference to his identity. This is an attack on him individually, and just deal with the merits of this case.
I mean, there are so many parts of that are just incredible. First off, why do you feel like you have to do this in the first place? Like, she started a podcast a couple of months ago. What, just because like your husband is Stephen Miller, you got to enter into the fray, you got to get into the podcast space, you got to go on Piers Morgan and debate these things that you're clearly not prepared to debate, given that you're, I mean, literally running to the ref. You're saying, ref, please do something. Mods, I need you to step in and ban Cenk and ban Omar Baddar because they're hurting my feelings, as you delusionally, I mean, straight up delusionally interpret every single thing as somehow an anti-Semitic attack on you. Also incredible, by the way, that Cenk goes after Stephen Miller, right? He says that, typical of you to lie similar to how, Stephen Miller would lie. And she not only interprets that as being an attack on all Jews or an attack on her children, but she's saying you're being racist and bigoted because you're calling Stephen Miller and myself a liar. Stephen Miller, you're the husband of Stephen Miller. Am I getting that right? And you're accusing them of being racist and bigoted. We're talking about the leading proponent, probably the most powerful white nationalist in the country right now, who's currently sending ICE around the United States to go and target anybody who looks Hispanic or who looks foreign or who speaks a language other than English. That's what your husband is doing right now. And you have the audacity to say that they're being racist and bigoted for what? Calling you or your husband a liar or objecting to what he's doing in his position of power. I mean, it's just incredible. Every single aspect of that. This is exactly, as Omar was saying there at the end, this is exactly what the right pretends that the left is when it comes to being snowflakes and being hysterical and interpreting everything as if, oh, you've offended my feelings or whatever. That is the epitome of Zionists in the United States of America. They are the most sensitive people. They are the most sensitive censorious people, and they are the quickest to pull out the "you're being a racist, you're being a bigot" card just for criticizing the state of Israel. I mean, all of it is so transparent, and you can see even on Jillian Michaels' face here, who, by the way, is a mega Zionist in and of herself, who literally recently rage quit one of her own show's segments because it was talking about Israel, and even she is sitting there with the face of, girl, what are you doing? Right? You are not even making our pro-Israel side look good in this situation. But it didn't even stop with all of those, you know, you're an anti-Semite, you're a racist, you're a bigot attack. Again, it also went in to this. Let's go ahead and watch this clip.
Hold on. So what happened in the Holocaust and all the pogroms were disgusting. That doesn't mean that
So again, not only is she attacking them as being anti-Semites and racists and bigots, but it's difficult to hear there because they're talking over each other, but she says, you better check that your citizenship application was done correctly, right? She's openly threatening, saying, my husband is the deputy White House chief of staff or whatever. He has the power to get you denaturalized and then deported from the country. That's what she's saying here. She's saying, better go check your documents and make sure that you didn't make even the slightest of errors, because we will weaponize that against you because you hurt my feelings on a goddamn Piers Morgan Israel segment. I mean, this is where we're at in this country. And by the way, how fucking embarrassing for the Trump administration, for Stephen Miller, that your wife is going out there and threatening somebody on TV or on his YouTube channel or whatever, on this major platform, saying, I'm going to get you denaturalized as an American citizen because you hurt my feelings. I mean, that is embarrassing, on top of it being, you know, obviously a continuation of the pro-Israel censorship in the United States of America. So, by the way, this isn't an empty threat. As I was saying before, this is something that conservatives have been pushing with many critics of Israel. Here's one from Laura Loomer, who does have some degree of, pretty significant influence on the Trump administration. She says here, Dear Real Tom Homan and Marco Rubio, Mehdi Hassan, a terror-tied Islamic immigrant, became a naturalized citizen on October 9th, 2020. Under U.S. law, post-naturalization can take place within 5 years of an immigrant becoming a naturalized citizen. You can have your U.S. citizenship revoked if you are found to have joined a prohibited organization, such as a terrorist or communist group, within 5 years of naturalizing. She says Mehdi has open ties to groups like the Muslim Brotherhood. He also lied about not being an extremist. He's on video calling non-Muslims cattle. What the fuck are we even talking about here? He refuses to condemn Antifa and has affiliations with open communists. So there are arguments being made here, not only that if you're critical of Israel, but now if you have quote unquote affiliations with communists, what does that even mean? He has a left-wing person on his Zateo show, or he goes and speaks at some sort of like a DSA event. What does ties to communists even mean? He won't condemn Antifa, first of all, nor should he, but that's just like, that's free speech that we're talking about here. She's trying to make the case that nobody should be allowed to become a U.S. citizen unless you are pro-fascism. That's the argument that we're making here. You have to be pro-Israel, and you have to be pro-Trump, and you have to be pro-fascism and anti-communist in order to become a citizen or even maintain your citizenship in this country, according to Laura Loomer. This wasn't the other thing that happened recently. We also had Hassan Piker, who was detained by Customs and Border Patrol at the airport and was directly questioned about his views on Hamas and Gaza and Israel. So this is the kind of like fear-mongering, kind of fear tactics that the Trump administration has been using. This was also under the Biden administration as well, with the crackdowns on college campuses that we saw under Democrats. So this isn't a purely Republican thing, but it has been significantly escalated. Again, a political commentator, an American citizen, Hassan, who was born here in the United States, by the way, who is an American citizen, is getting detained at the airport for being critical of Israel and questioned about his views on the genocide in Gaza. And continuations of calls to denaturalize people. We also had another recent example of this kind of crackdown here from the AP. They say lawyers for British political commentator Sami Hamdi are challenging his U.S. detention in court. So this guy, Hamdi, has been in detention for, I believe, like a couple of days now, I mean 3 or 4 days at this point probably, by ICE, by Customs and Border Patrol, because he was going on a speaking tour with a valid visa here in the United States and is critical of Israel. This was also, by the way, something that was initially pushed, I believe, by Laura Loomer and other right-wing influencers who were calling on him to be arrested. And so they arrested him over his speech that was critical of Israel. I mean, think about that aspect of it as well. It's not that he's going around and slamming the United States and saying we should overthrow the US government or whatever. He's criticizing a foreign government. These are the kinds of things that we're doing to protect a foreign government in this country. One final reminder here on what Congress has been up to over the last couple of years. I mean, this is back from May of 2024. So this was under the Biden administration. Again, a very bipartisan pro-Israel crackdown that we've been seeing over the last couple of years. The headline here from Al Jazeera is U.S. House passes controversial bill that expands the definition of anti-Semitism. Rights groups warn that the definition could further chill freedom of speech as protests continue on college campus. So this was a bill that passed 320 to 91 in the House of Representatives. So again, very bipartisan phenomenon that we're talking about here. And the changing of the definition of anti-Semitism, in which you could then be cracked down upon by the government, by the state, by your college for being anti-Semitic, it expands the definition to include just being anti-Zionist. Or one of the more specific things that they have in the specific definitions is comparing the state of Israel to the Nazis, which is an objectively valid comparison to make. Even if you disagree with it, you don't get to decide, or you shouldn't be able to decide as the government, what comparisons we get to make to foreign governments and governments throughout history. I mean, what are we talking about here? The extent to which our government goes to protect the U.S. support for the Israeli state is utterly and completely deranged. And now it's gotten to the point where, again, you have the wife of arguably one of the most powerful people in the country. I mean, probably top 3 behind Trump and maybe Marco Rubio. You have Stephen Miller in there, who is incredibly influential in the U.S. government, and his wife is going on Piers Morgan to threaten somebody with denaturalization over criticism of a foreign government, or just because she got her feelings hurt. So this is where we're at in this country. Obviously we've been covering the relentless U.S. support, both in terms of funding, in terms of, sending weapons and arms to Israel, in terms of the diplomatic cover on the international stage and attacking the International Criminal Court and the International Court of Justice and any country that dares to stand against Israel or to hold them accountable. But it goes even beyond that, because we are cracking down on our own population. We are cracking down on American citizens for daring to criticize a government that's in the midst of committing a full-blown genocide in Gaza, which has not subsided despite the talk of ceasefire, and is also in the midst of continuing with an ongoing ethnic cleansing in the West Bank and expansion of illegal settlements in the West Bank, as well as they continuously go to war, by the way, with numerous neighbors, including Lebanon and Syria and Iran and Yemen and Somalia, that the U.S. is in joint operations with in many of these cases with Israel. I mean, the extent to which the rot goes in cracking down on behalf of this government is utterly and completely insane.
Politic guy has the best politic. Believe me, no one does it like him. Believe me, everyone is saying